Hello everyone. I hope you guys can see my screen. Okay, so today we are going to start with our session number 15. Okay, so till now we have covered 14 sessions and which was the major chunk of the Angular course which we generally require and which basically constitutes about 80% of the Angular. So 80% is just a rough idea. Don't go with the number. Okay, so what we are going to start with today we are going to start with the kind of revision session. So these two sessions you can say kind of revisions like today's session and the next session. Okay, and after that we will see how you can migrate from Angular 1 to Angular 2, and after that there is one more session. I don't remember what's the name of that session. Okay, so yeah, I think that will be on testing. Yes, that's on testing. All right. So today what we are going to cover more about the services. So kind of a revision of services, how you create a service. All right. And what is the syntaxes. And another thing which I want to cover in this session is the lifecycle hooks. That's a very small topic, and that is also not very frequently used as in you will not be writing that, but yeah, you should be aware that what is a life cycle of a component, what all methods are covered under this life cycle. Okay, so what we will do, we will first start with life cycle hooks and then we will look at the services. All right, so I got a ping in the chat. Yeah, Namita, what question do you have? Okay, so Namita want to add a button in some other component instead of app component and call the HTTP client. Yes, that you can do very easily. What is the issue you are facing? Okay, so maybe that method is not getting hit. What you can do is if you would like to share the screen and you can unmute yourself so that others can also listen to you. Will that work? I stopped sharing my screen in case you want to share.
Ajay,
Hi.
immediate solve करवायला काय ई करून ना
I can listen to some noise. Are you sharing or shall we go ahead? Okay. If you want, then we can take it in the end. Will that work? Okay, fine. All right, just remind me in the end that we have to look into your issue. Okay. So I started sharing my screen. All right. So as I told, what all we are going to cover. First, we will talk about the services. So I will more of call it as a revision of services, and also lifecycle hooks. All right. So let's start with the lifecycle hooks first. So what is the meaning of lifecycle hooks? Lifecycle hooks means the uh, the cycle which under which a component goes through in within the span of its life. Okay. So life cycle hooks means all the events that basically happens right from the instantiation of a component till it is destroyed. Okay, just like there is a life cycle of a human being, right? A person is born and then he is a infant, and then you call him a kid, then he become a little younger child, then he started getting older, and ultimately it dies, right? So all that stuff happens. That is a kind of life cycle of a person. Similarly, a component also have a life cycle. Okay, so it's a cycle through which each and every component goes through. Okay, so if we look at constructor, constructor is the very first function which gets called when you create an object. Okay, but we do not consider it inside the life cycle functions. Okay, because for life cycle we are having other functions as well. So constructor we do not consider it, but yes, it also plays a vital role in any component. Okay, but we cannot consider it under the life cycle hooks topic. All right. So what all functions or what all things are covered under the life cycle hooks? Okay. So first of all, our very first function, which is ng on init. All right. So in general, you will be seeing that we will not be actually implementing these functions generally. In commonly or in common in general of any projects, we do not implement these functions. All right. But still, we should know that how a component starts and what all phases it goes through, and under ultimately how it destroys. Okay. So what I will do is, first of all, I will tell you name of the each function and its functionality, what it does. Okay, and after that I will show you this through code as well. Okay, I will write function. Actually, I already have that. I have written all the functions. Okay, this is a list of functions which we have in a life cycle, and in each function I have one console.log statement. Okay, just to see which function is getting called when. Okay, so we will not be calling these functions, they will be getting called automatically. All right, automatically means since it is a life cycle, so we need not to call these functions, but these functions are called internally by Angular. Okay, under some events. What are those events? That's basically the theoretical concepts which we are going to cover now. So first function, ng on init, right? So what ng on init does, or what you can do in ng on init, ng on init is a one-time function. Okay, so from a life cycle point of view, one component when it's get loaded, then ng on init is the first function to get called, and this is basically a one-time process. So for the first time when the component is loaded, this function is called very first time. Okay, that is why its name also suggests that it is something which is called on the initiation. Once the component is initialized, then after that this function will not be called any point of time. Okay, so ng on init. So what you guys can do in this, you can basically create some objects on the instantiation of the component. You can assign some values, you can initialize some values, you can give some definition to some of the variables, some of the properties. All this stuff you can do on ng on init. Also remember this will be called only for the very first time. Okay, and when it can be called again, once the component is unloaded and after that it is again got loaded, then only it will be called. Otherwise at any point of time ng on init will not be called after first time. Okay, so once it is initialized, once the component is initialized, then ng on init is called. Okay, then comes the ng on content init. Okay, so what is the meaning of ng on content? ng on content init means as soon as the content inside that particular component gets initialized. Okay, so one thing I would like to say, all the functions which are having init, like ng on init, ng content init, ng view init, right? So these functions will be called only very first time when the component is loaded. Okay, on the initialization of it, these functions will be called. Okay, so these functions will be called only once. Other functions I will show you, they will be called after a regular interval. Not a regular interval, I will say after some event occurs or after something happens, those functions will be called at those particular events. Okay, so what is ng content init? As soon as the content within a component gets initialized. Okay, how a content gets initialized? What is the meaning of a content? Content is nothing but the HTML file of that component. Okay, so this is the file, right? This is a kind of content for the app component, right? So as soon as the content of this component gets initialized, then this function gets called. Okay, again, this is a first time job, only one time. All right, then in the background there is one function which keep on getting called and on which you do not have any control. Okay, and that function is called as ng do check. All right, so you can't expect that at what point of time this function will be called, ng do check. Okay, so what this function does, this do check function does, as its name says, what it has to do, it has to do some check, ng do check. So this function will keep on checking the content or each and everything within a component to change. As soon as something is changed, this function will start doing its stuff. Okay, then can you control this function? No, you cannot control this because it is kind of handled completely by Angular. Okay, so this function keep on checking the views or all of your components, it will keep on checking. Okay, as soon as something is changed, as soon as the checking is complete, it will call some of the functions. What are those functions? One of the function is ng after content checked. Okay, as soon as the content, first of all the content got initialized, right? And once it is initialized, checking will start happening. Okay, as soon as the checking is done, then what will happen? Ng after content checked is called. So that means the content is checked And if you want to do something, you can do inside this function, ng after content checked. Okay, so this content can be anything. It is not very specific. All right, but there is another function called as ng after view init. Okay, is it after view init or on view init? After view init. Okay. So what is the meaning of ng after view init? What is a view here? Can anyone tell me what is a view? Okay, I think you guys forgot to read this. The very clearly it is written after the hyphen. Yes, it is HTML only, but it is actually the child views. Okay, if you remember, we talked about @view content, @child content in one of our sessions, right? So the same thing is here. Ng after view init is again a function which gets called when a child view get initialized. Okay, so just like our this component app component, right? This app component.html is again having some views inside it, right? Where is it? It's not having here. Let me check. It is currently not mentioned here, but when you have a child view, then this function gets called ng after view init. Once that view, the child view gets initialized, ng after view init gets called. Okay, so once the view initialization happens, this function will be called. Then again, this checking will anyways be happening behind the scene. You will not be noticing this, you will not be able to get this, but this ng do check will keep on checking it. Okay, once again the view checking of the view is done, ng after view checked is called. Okay, so once the view is checked, then ng after view checked is called. All right, then in last, ng on destroy will be called, because what is ng on destroy? Ng on destroy means when your component gets unloaded from the memory, then ng on destroy is called automatically. Okay, so ng on destroy means if you want to do some stuff on the destroy, on the destoration of the you can say when a component is destroyed, ng on destroy function is called. Okay, so you can do some garbage collection there, you can free up your memory there, all that stuff you can do inside the ng destroy function. Okay, now what we will do, we have just written these functions here. All right, and they are not having anything much, they are just having one line console statement, okay, which just prints on the console, and we will see how it will work. Okay, so we will also able to see the order, in which order they are called. All right, let's see. So I go here and this is our output from the previous project only. Once I refresh, let's see what all will be printed. Okay, you can see the very first line printed is ng on init of app component. ng on init of app component means ng on init is the very first function which got called. Okay, because it is the initialization of the component. Okay, and just after that you can see again a checking got started happening, ng check of app component, right? As I told, this check is not under your control at all. Okay, so the checking of the component started. After that, ng after content init, content got initialized, that means all the content was initialized. Then after ng after content checked, right? Content got checked. After that, view got initialized. View means the child views. And then ng after view checked, view again got checked, right? And after that, you can see again ng check is happening, right? So as I told, this is totally unpredictable. And after that, you can see there is no initialization now. Only after content checked, after view checked. There is no content init and view init now. Why? Because initializations are one-time job. After that, ng do check will keep on checking. This function will keep on just checking it. And after content checked and after view checked will be called. Okay. Now what I will do, I will just clear this console, and there is an input box here. Okay. So as I told, this do check, what it does, it basically keep on checking, right? So that means if I will change something in the view, then also this do check should happen, right? If something is changed, this do check should know that something is changed and you have to take appropriate action, right? Let's see, once I will write something inside this, you will see that more functions will be getting called. Let's suppose I just press A. Okay. You can see ng check of app component, right? Again, the component is checked, and after that, content checked, and after view checked are called. After that, again, check is happening. Again, ng content check after view check is called. Okay. So whenever your view will be getting updated, then ng do check will be there. Okay. So ng do check, as I told, it is again a function which keep on getting called. Okay. So this is a function which you should not handle. It should always be up to Angular. Let it be Angular, let Angular handle it the way it want. Okay. Yeah. So this is about the lifecycle hooks. And if you want to see this ng destroy, then how can I show you this? I have to see if I can show you ng on destroy, because destroy it hasn't happened yet. Let's see if I can click on this. No, again, that is not happening, because at any point of time, our app component is not destroyed, right? App is the root component. Okay. Maybe I can do is I can preserve the log here. So, and I will refresh. Once I refresh, your component will be destroyed. Let's see if it will show. Okay, no. All right. So ng on destroy happens when the component is unloaded. Unloaded means when one component gets destroyed. Okay. Let's suppose you are having some page here. Some links are there, and on click of one page, one page is coming, and on click of second link, second page is coming, right? So once first one is removed, then that is basically getting unloaded. Unloaded means it is getting destroyed. In that case, this function will be called ng on destroy. Okay. So this is a kind of lifecycle hooks, a cycle of functions which a component goes through till its lifespan. Okay. Any doubts you guys have for this? This is simple topic. There is nothing much to put your head into it, and in general you don't even implement these functions other than ng on init and ng on destroy. So initialization and destroy is something on which you might have to which you might implement and you might use them. Other than that, other functions in general, you guys don't touch them. Okay, but this is a lifespan of a Angular component, which you should anyways be aware that no matter you are doing something, but there's lot of stuff which is working behind the scene. Okay, this looks simple. Yes, Angular, those guys have made it very simple for us from a user's point of view. It is very simple, but it is very complex behind the scene. Okay, yeah. So this was one topic which I wanted to cover for today, which is a new one. All right. And now what we can do is we can just move to the revision of services, like how we created a service and what is the syntax, how we use it. All that stuff I can iterate over once again. All right. So in depth, we have already covered the services, but yeah, we can do a one quick revision and then we can quickly close the session for today. Okay. So now onwards, you will be seeing that most of the session will be lightweight only. There will be nothing much of technical complexity. Okay. So let's proceed and see the service part. All right. So from the service point of view, what all things we did? Let me see. Okay. If I tell you in services, what all topics we covered? First of all, what we did, we learned how to create a service. Right? Then we looked at in how many ways we can inject a service, or you can say use a service, right? And after that we see how to inject a service inside another service. So these are generally, you can say, the high level agenda which we followed. Other than this also, I think we might have covered a few things, but yeah, we'll see. If anything else comes on the go, we will cover that as well. Okay, so we will not be actually writing it, we will be revising it, right? If you guys have any questions in between for the services, then you guys can ask me. Okay, so first of all comes the syntax which we followed, right? As I told, anytime Angular CLI is your best friend, then again we use the Angular CLI for the creation of service as well. So we have written ng generate service, and after that name of the service, right? Then after that what we did, we have written name of the service. Okay, so name of the service can be anything, and one more thing, while writing the name of the service, you do not append the service string itself, right? You do not write, let's suppose shared service, right? You do not write shared service, but you just write shared. What it does, it automatically appends service in its name. Okay, so let's create one service, ng generate service shared. What it will do, it will create two files for us. First one is the actual service content, which contains the service file. Second one is the spec file. Okay, spec file is nothing but for the testing of this service. Okay, so what we will do, we will just delete the testing file. Where is it? This shared service.spec.ts. We don't need this. We can simply delete it, or you can keep it as well. But for now, I will delete. Then this is the file which we get when we create a service. Okay. Again, I told that if you just remove this content from the top, what is it? It is a plain vanilla flavor of a class, right? It is just plain vanilla class, right? Which doesn't have anything else other than a constructor and one export statement. Okay. So what makes it a service? This decorator @injectable, right? This decorator makes it a service because now you prefixed a class with the @injectable. That means this class can be injected. When it can be injected means it becomes a service. Okay. So basically, why we create a service? We create service to make something visible or make something available to the multiple components. Okay. So when you want to share some code across the component, you have some functionality or you have a business logic which you want to share. Okay. So the content which you do not want to make it to the component specific, right? So business logic which is not component specific, but which can be reused by multiple components. For all that stuff, you make services because services are the singleton injectable objects. Okay, you can inject the services in any number of components. Now, what you will do, you have to inject this service, right? Okay. What is the meaning of injecting a service? Injecting a service means you will be using this service inside another component, and before using it, you have to import it, kind of import, right? So how will you import this? Let's suppose you want to import inside the app component here. Okay. So for that, what you have to do, first of all, import it, right? So you import a service by writing import keyword and then name of the service, which is shared service. Shared service from, then what you give name the path. What is the path? It is shared service, like this. You imported this, then you have to write where. You have to mention it inside the array of providers. Okay. Okay, Navita is telling that can you import this in about component? Yes, sure. So what we will do, we will not import in the app component, we will import it inside our which one is telling about component. Okay, so we have this above component here. We will remove this line from here. Let's remove it, and I will paste it in the about.component.ts file. Here I will import this. I just mentioned the same name. Okay, so as you can see, it is giving an underline red line because the path which I have specified is not correct. So what I have to do, I am currently in about folder, right? I have to come out of it. So to come out, I have to write /. Okay. So // about shared service. All right. So // means within the same folder. // means go one folder up and then find the name. Now this is finally imported. Now what we have to do, we have to make use of a property. Property of what? Property of a component object. So this component object can take several properties. One of those properties providers. So providers takes an array of services. I will just paste it here like this, shared service. I got this. Now I have to create the object of that service. Creating an object means I have to write one alias for the name. Let's suppose shared service. And then I have to tell it is of type shared service. Okay. So here also I can just change a little bit. I say SVC, shared SVC. All right. Now, as soon as the object of about component is created, it will automatically create the object of shared service as well. Okay. So here I will say not just the creation, but I will also say it is more of an injection. All right. Injecting means object is already there. You are just importing it. That is the concept of dependency injection. Okay. Now what we can do, this shared service is available to our component. Now I can use it. How I can use it? There should be some business logic inside the shared service which you can utilize. Okay. So inside my shared service, currently I do not have anything. I can do some stuff here. Maybe I can write some function. Maybe it contains a function which finds a square of a number. Okay. Yeah, it's not a function, it's like this. So this square number takes a number. What a number can be? Let's say number, maybe parameter 1 or maybe param, and it is of type number. Okay, and what it does, it returns the square, right? So it's param multiplied by param. Okay, now you want to use this functionality inside your component about component. Okay, so here what I will do, I can create one button here. Not yeah, button I will create, and on click of that button I will call one function. What is that function? Let's suppose get square. And what it does, it might take one parameter, and then I will just print it console.log of what? Console.log of this dot shared svc dot what? Square. Okay. Oh, why is it giving a error? Because I have to make it public. Yes. Square does not exist on type shared service. Is it? But Square is there. Okay, name problem. Yes. Spelling problem was there. Let's see now what is it happening. Yes, I have to pass the parameter as well because it accepts one parameter. I have to send the parameter here. All right. So I got this get square function. Now I have to call it as well, right? And what I can do is to call this, I have to create one button. Let's create this button here. Inside about, what I do, I first of all create an input box. Input type equals to number. And what I can do is I can create a template property as well. Hash my input. Okay, to get its value. And then I think here I can just give something. All right. Then I create one button as well. And on click of that button, I will call one function. Which function? Get square function. Let's write get square. And I will pass the property. Which property? My input dot value. My input dot value. What it will give you? It will give you the value of the input box. All right. Now what I have to do? I have to go to my app component .html file. Here I have to make use of that. What I have to first import that. Not import, but I have to mention that I'm going to use this app about component, right? This about component is present nowhere. App hyphen about. Inside my root component, I have to specify like this. So app about, it will be shown. Let's see now what is happening here. I have to run this ng serve. Okay, build is happening. All right, let's refresh now. Okay, we got this text box and our button is not visible. We have to write a name to our button. Where is it? Here. I say get square. All right, let's go here. Okay, we got this button. Now I just pass, let's suppose 25. All right, and now I will click on this get square function. You can see what is it printing? It is printing 625. Right? What is 625? 625 is nothing but the square of the number which I passed. What is the square of 25? It is 625 only. All right. So this is how you can create a service and you can inject it and you can use it. Okay. Any doubts or any questions? All right, let's proceed then. Now we are left with just one part, which is okay. One more thing I think I have to cover. Yes, I have to cover the another way of injecting the service. Right? This was the first way. Another way was by using inject. Okay. Okay, I got a question that services acts like a controller. No, components acts like a controller. This component file is acting like a controller for about.html. Services are the objects. They are the injectable objects and which can be shared across components. Okay, so this component is actually the acting like a controller of Angular 1. Right? In Angular 1 we were having controllers. Here we have this component.ts files. If you guys know Angular 1, then you can easily relate. Okay, even if you do not know, then also it's fine. Okay, so then the second syntax was what? Second syntax was related to @inject. Okay, what it was, I don't know where it went. How we used it? I think we generally removed that code. Okay, no problem. What I will do, I will use it now. So how you use the second way of using it? There is a decorator called as @inject. Okay, so what @inject does? This helps you to inject the services via the usage of decorators. @inject of what? @inject of maybe SVC, and it is of type. You have to assign a local variable as well. Let's suppose SVC only. Okay, and you have to create a property here SVC, and it is going to be of type shared service. All right, and here you write this dot SVC equals to this SVC. Okay, I think here you have to mention this shared service. Yes, you have to inject shared service and put its instance into the SVC. So once you got this, then you have to mention like this. You have to put that object inside one local property of the function or local property of the component. Okay, so that means this was the first way of importing a service. This is the another way via decorators. Now instead of using this shared service object, I can use SVC as well. SVC. This will also work the same. Let's see. Okay, so we got no provider for shared service. Okay, this shared service, there is no provider for it. Uh, do I need to mention it is of type shared service? Let's see. No. Okay. So some syntax error we have done. Let's see. Let me check out the syntax. Uh, which session was it? It was session number 10, I think. Let's see, I've got component.ts file. Yes, it is the same @inject calculator service and then cal svc. I think, yeah, we need not to do write this. Okay, it should not be in single quotes. Let's see now. Yes, that was the problem, that we put this inside the single quotes like this, but it should not be in single quotes. Let's see now, it will work the same way. I just clear this off. Now I put something here. Let's suppose this time I enter 30 and I click on get square. I got 900. Okay. So this is the another way or the second way of injecting a service. All right. Then the last thing which we left is how you use a service inside another service. That is again very simple. I think I already have an example. We'll need not to create another one. Yes. So this is also very similar. You just import like calculator service inside this service, and then inside the constructor you write the same syntax. Okay, so injection of a service can be done inside a component, and a service can be injected into another service as well. It's one of the generally used example is HTTP. HTTP is a service, right, which we covered in last session, and we were using HTTP service in our custom service as well, right? So that means a service can be injected into a service as well. Service can be injected into a component as well. Okay, and there is no limit in like in how many components or how many services you can use. All right, so that is why a service is a shareable concept. It's a shareable thing which you can share across components, share across services as well. Okay, yeah, so that's it about the services also. So how to create a service, in how many ways, how to inject a service inside another service. Yes. All right, so we are done with this also, services as well as the uh, life cycle hooks. Okay, you guys have any questions? As we are already done with our session for today, if you guys want to ask something, you guys can ask. No, then okay. If I tell you about the agenda for our next few sessions, as I already discussed, like next session is again going to be a kind of revision session only. All right. I got a ping. It says in the example you have imported the service in about service, where you have the where you have the out the button. Atul, what do you want to say? I didn't get the last line. I injected into the about component and I have button in the same component HTML file only. About.component.html. Only. Okay. So you cannot from app.component.html. Okay. However, there is another way that you can use one component inside another component, but that's a total different story. All right. And even one component.ts file cannot be a component file for more than one HTML. That is why if you see in this app.component.ts file, the template URL is not an array. It is just a string. If it would have been possible that this can act as a component file for multiple templates, then this should have been an array. Okay. Just like style URLs, it is an array because there can be multiple style CSS files. There can be multiple providers here. That is why it's an array. Okay. All right. So what we'll do in last, we will take the doubt of one person who pinged me in the very starting for some doubt. What was that doubt? Namita, I think, yes. Would you like to share now? I think I have to stop sharing for that. Oh, okay. The issue is resolved now. All right, fine then. That's cool. All right. Okay, guys, then what we'll do, we'll meet on Friday now, where again we'll have a kind of revision session and we will cover a few topics. We will revise more of a we will be revising the previous stuff only. Okay. All right, then. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Bye.